Laura St. Lawrence. I worked 15 years in international corporations on the funds for 5 or 6 years in Latin America. And since 2005, I work with governments and private enterprises to put in place supply and service responsible purchases with the Peruvian government.
I will speak in French. So maybe to start, I'm going to explain to you the work that I do. I'm not specifically a person who is specialized in the gender equity and equality. I'm more specialized how to include sustainability in the procurement. And I help currently the Peruvian government for the Peruvian government to set in place tools, operational tools that aims to have a better and more accountable procurement. What about accountable procurement? As a lot of things pertaining to sustainability, it covers really various aspects that are quite different. So government and the administration and public administration buy huge quantities of goods and services like construction equipment, services, insurance, cleaning, and the government buys a lot, and the Peruvian government purchases more than $5 million US. Those are important numbers to participate in the social economic development within a territory. So the sustainable procurement is to ensure that the product, the service of a government and bought by the government should have the least impact on the environment and should participate to the development, economic development. When it comes to the social development, we need to ensure that monitoring is set in place. So the government is going to give a contract to providers, but those must develop economically developed territories in order to provide an access to excluded service providers and other vulnerable parties. So in these vulnerable parties are entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who are traditionally excluded by population, who do not have access to a market. We can have other models of companies, like private companies, like social economic companies, who are all excluded. So there is all these economic actors who are most of the time dark and unknown into a territory and to which we are going to give them an access to public procurement. So when we arrive about a sustainable procurement, that's what we need to convince. We need to convince the political, the decision makers, and all the managers of all the units that's purchased throughout the country, in addition to the thousands of purchasers who every day sell and have procurement. So it is a complex mechanism that goes from top down. And today, what we are looking for and we're trying to do, if we review the accessibility of women to public procurement and the gender equality, the first thing that we need to do as part of our approach with the government of Peru is to make them understand the added value of procurement in order to give this access to all these populations. So we raise awareness. First of all, we raise awareness. So the government of Peru have started for years, let's say 10 years ago, to work the environment side of the things. But the other components, social, economic, are ignored, or we are just starting right now with the project, with the Canadian project. So the first thing is, first of all, to raise awareness about those topics and to highlight how their purchasing power can contribute. And we can find it in all the directives and all the guidelines. And we ask them, what are the legal pathways in the laws, in the standards that can be extracted in order to encompass in the purchasing, in the procurement. So we needed, first of all, to read through to see what are the pathways, and after that to work with the people who are in the procurement in order to modify those policies. So it is another part of the work that we have been doing. I'm not alone on this project. I am here in Canada. I go 1 week to Peru simply in order for consultation. And there is a Peruvian consultant who is on the ground, who is helping me to identify those policies and those standards. So the big chunk of the work, if I keep in the same vein, is to ensure that the people with whom we work, who are going to set in place or to set in place the program, is to understand the purchasing power and to see how their purchasing power influence the procurement. And the second objective is to see how how while having such a practices that ensure equality, gender equality to equality, those equality doesn't only improve the access of women and provide more equality, but they favor also a better financial health for companies throughout the country, because we have some data to which they exist, and that for Latin America that highlight that companies where women have more access to the board, to management process, those companies are more performant financially, and they're even raised their figures that are very advantageous. So we are going to present that to the decision makers because it will motivate them in order to implement everything. So somehow that's how we work, as that's what we are doing right now. So we are setting in place a consultation mechanism to change the mind of people and how to see how they are. So in order to end what we are doing when it comes to this, you have to understand that our objective is to understand how women on the ground could be able to companies, and what are the market analysis, what are the data we have, and that's only to say you should have criteria that target gender equality, but in such sector for those products which economic sector has more possibilities to have a better response in the market, and how we can implement a more sustainable, more implementing those sustainable. So in a nutshell, that's what we are doing in Peru. The biggest challenge, you will understand that we have a lot of stakes that needs to be taken into consideration. We need to be very targeted. We are only in the beginning of the market, on the beginning of the project, and so I will stop here. I don't know how long how long I stayed, but I can come back to you if we have any questions.